I'm going to make this video short and sweet for you, since it's kind of a short article anyway from Zero Hedge. How many times do I get out here and tell you? I'll read you something about, the great job numbers, markets rally. And I come out here and say, don't worry, there's going to be a revision. There's always a revision. And by the way, this is what I said, and by the way, the revision is always worse than terrible. Decent numbers, better than we expected, or as we expected, markets rally. Month later, 2 months later, oops, terrible numbers in the revision, but who cares? We already said it was good a month or two ago. Nobody cares anymore. Labor Department, one of my favorite revisions, revises away 150,000 jobs. And if you want to know what that looks like in chart form, just how bad the revision is, take a look at this. Here's the initial. What we thought it was, revised down, boom, 150,000. Terrible. Quote, "We felt a great disturbance in the Obama recovery farce, as if 150,000 everything is awesome job gainers voices cried out in terror and were suddenly silenced. We fear something terrible has happened. With the swipe of the Labor Department's pen, 150,000 newly created jobs were just revised out of existence yesterday. As the New York Times reports, the U.S. economy likely created 150,000 fewer jobs in the 12 months through March than previously estimated, the Labor Department said on Wednesday." So here's one thing that's telling already, and that's how it's always been. These are always estimates. These aren't factual numbers. These aren't statistics. These are nothing more than estimates. Kind of like when Ben Bernanke was in charge of the Fed, and he estimated that we're going to print all this money, we're going to fix this problem in 2008 and 9, and by the year 2016 rolls around, this balance sheet of ours is going to come way down, and we'll be back to normal. And what happened in reality? Maintained as high as it was, $4.5 trillion, now $5 trillion, whatever, on the balance sheet. But Bernanke's gone. He doesn't care anymore. He's giving speeches for, not as much as Hillary, I don't think, but he's giving some speeches for some pretty pennies. The reading, which is a preliminary estimate. Again, here, it's an estimate. At least when you call someone, I've got a kitchen sink. When I turn the cold, it's got two knobs. One's for the cold water, one's for the hot water. When I turn the hot water on, it's not hot. It's not hot as it should be. Can you, or better yet, that's not a good example. When I turn the hot water one on, the pressure is kind of low. When I turn the cold water on, it's nice and powerful. Can you give me an estimate? Oh yeah, it's probably between this and this. And when the plumber comes, he'll usually right. You ask for a service, they're usually right, unless you were way off in what you told them, and then that's your fault for lying to them. Oh, I didn't know. Sir, I didn't know you had a massive water softener system, 15 reverse osmosis filter. Within reason. In other words, when someone gives you an estimate, you can expect it to be somewhere in that ballpark. And I know every time I take my car and they say that, it's always a little bit higher than they said. Okay, a little bit higher. Not a lot revised, right? They didn't have to revise that baby like the government does. The reading, which is a preliminary estimate of the department's annual benchmark revision, is revision to closely watched payroll data showed the retail, wholesale trade, education, and professional and business services sectors accounted for the bulk of the downward revision. So anything that really matters, payroll data shows retail, wholesale trade, education, professional and business services sectors accounted for the bulk of the downward revision. So only the jobs that really mattered, not the part-time waiters and the restaurant and hospitality. No, the stuff, the middle-class stuff. That's what got revised. Once a year, the government compares its non-farm payrolls data based on monthly surveys of a sample of employers with a much more complete database of unemployment insurance tax records. A final benchmark revision will be released in February, along with the department's report on employment for January. Government statisticians will use the final benchmark count to revise payrolls data for months both prior to and after March. Which means what? The double revision comes, right? Revision on top of revision. This revision, which shifts payroll data lower in 9 out of the last 14 months, is enough to knock 12,000 jobs off each month on average, likely kicking many of these prints that we printed good to a miss. We missed expectations. Not that it matters anyways, they said. We didn't hear too many mainstream media reporters discussing this major jobs loss of jobs over the last 12 months now, did we? Nope. Because all these numbers were fake, nonsense, revised down. Everything's a lie. I was just watching, what is that show? Joshua Gates, the explorer guy, goes around, mysteries, and what the heck's the name of that channel? Something Explorer, or can't think of. Joshua Gates, you probably know. Oh, Christopher, they recorded a new episode. Christopher Columbus, 2 countries think they have his bones. We're going to see if we can get DNA samples or if any of them have taken any and see what the story is. And they're showing 6 or 7 different pictures of this guy, Christopher Columbus. None of them look like the other pictures. And they said, for a guy that discovered, went around the world twice, essentially, as far as miles he traveled, founded this new American land, went all the way up the coast from Haiti and all that, Cuba, enslaved some of the Indians on one of those, I think it was Haiti at the time. And when he left this party of people, he came back later and the Indians had slaughtered them because they were abusing the Indians, according to this documentary or this show. And I thought to myself, how, for a guy of that stature, nobility, how in the hell do they not have a picture of the guy? You don't have paintings? People weren't painting Christopher Columbus back when he discovered all this stuff and came back and told the king and this and that. And it said, by the way, that he was still fighting the king for royalties he earned. He was supposed to get 8% of all the stuff he discovered and money earned. He was fighting the crown, fighting the government to get his damn money. Isn't that amazing? But as you also know, speaking of all this revisions and lies and all this crap is why I'm telling you this. How does someone discover a country that's already been discovered because people are already living on it? These people you might know as Indians. Not only that, you watch some of these archaeological shows like this one. Expedition Unknown. That's the name of it. Expedition Unknown. And they're saying we've got the Vikings over here. There's markings. This one's, 1600 and 1400 and all this stuff. Like, wait a minute. What was that? What was that year? That's way before Christopher Columbus. Well, that's interesting. They've got these Spanish, churches what they used to call them churches, not even cathedrals, just like a mission or whatever. Ruins, Bottom line, you didn't discover jack shit. But that's the story we're fed. No, Christopher Columbus is in all the history books, and the guy was pretty brutal on people, apparently. So, who does the revision of history? Government never comes out. Only the winners of the wars and the current powers that be at any given time in history are the ones that write the history. So everything you think you know is history is more than likely complete rubbish, trash. The things you think you know that we all would know as common knowledge, that's common, everybody knows that, are more than likely made up nonsense from these people because that's all they do forever. That's what they do. There's a bunch of Hillary Clintons out there. I want to make money. I want to do whatever I have to do to advance myself. And then when something comes up, I have to make up these huge lies to get out of it. And those huge lies then become history. All these news stories, archived videos, that's history. You go back to look at something. Well, what did she say? Oh, there's a video of what she said. Can't really be proven per se, but she said it, and that's all we have, so that's history. That's what it is. Just like we were told all these years, almost 100 years now, the sinking of the Lusitania is what got us involved in the war, the World War. It was the sinking of a passenger ship. And I'll never forget, I've told this story before. I'll never forget. I had jury duty, I think it was 2009. I go down there, waiting, never get called. I'm waiting. There's magazines everywhere. Oh, National Geographic. Let me pick up this magazine and read it. First page, cover, whatever. We're going to test the theory of the Lusitania, if it had munitions on board or not. Conspiracy theory. We're actually going to dive the wreck. Again, this is 2009, so I'm not fully awake, but I'm pretty awake at that point. That would be a massive conspiracy there. That got us involved in a world war. Flipped right to the page. High-res photos. Where are they? Oh, there they are. That sucker was chock full of munitions, high-definition photographs in that magazine. Showed all of it. I'm not talking little bullets, okay? I'm not talking little gun bullets. Big munitions. And they found an English depth charge sitting on the front part of the ship, the bow of the ship, not blown up. It was a dud. Well, English, British, that's our buddies. Right. And there was a conspiracy in the 1950s because people offshore of where that had happened in the year it happened. But in the 1950s, they hear this bombing. The people on the shore can see the lights way out there in the ocean from where they are on shore. And a conspiracy comes up. Wouldn't you know, this is stupid sheeple. Conspiracy that the British are out there blowing up the remains of the Lusitania to get rid of the evidence that it was in fact carrying munitions. You morons. 1950s, you sheep. Oh, wait a minute. National Geographic just confirmed in 2009. You guys were right. The British were out there trying to destroy it. That's why the depth charge was still sitting on the bow of the ship underwater, unexploded. It's not like the enemies of our day back then had those types of depth charges, because that was our ally. And only they had that. It was a British particular model depth charge. Isn't that amazing? So, point being, stuff is revised. You lied to. Like, I think of anyone who, like when we all went to school, what the hell did we even learn history for? What in the hell did we even learn that for? We learned a history, I think, for the same purposes as we tell our kids, don't lie, don't cheat, don't steal, and then we go and do that. And when our kids see it, Daddy, you said don't lie, you said don't do that. Don't. Yeah, Emily, you're 10 years old today because it's a lot cheaper for kids to eat. If you're 11, they charge you an adult. But Daddy, you said we shouldn't lie. It's not right. But Emily, you eat like a 7-year-old. So in theory, but Daddy, right? Same reason. Teach all of our people, kids alike, all of us, history of their country, proud to be an American, democracy, best country in the world, best healthcare, best education. We win all the wars. We abolish slavery. We are great. And then you become an adult and look over here and experience it for yourself and say, this whole thing worked. Obamacare fees, taxes, Hillary Clinton above the law, endless wars, bombing Libya, bombing Syria, giving rebels, ISIS, all these weapons. 43 Toyota trucks. Let me open my history book because that does not sound right to me. Anyways, take care.